teeth, looking like $1 million. Nice cheese, nice cheese. Oh, stay fit. Oh, stay fit. What up, what up, what up, everybody? It's your boy, Carl the Red, man, and we are back for another one. Alright, y'all, so what's the topic of the day? Today we talking about, what am I going to name this one? I don't know what I'm naming it, but today we're talking about Manny Pacquiao's pay-per-view buys. I might name this one, I don't know yet. But, everybody's talking about Manny Pacquiao's pay-per-view buys at the moment. I don't really understand why this is such a big topic and why people felt like he's falling off, or like he's not doing well, or he's not popular anymore, because he only sold, according to this article I was reading, he only sold 250,000 pay-per-view buys, which is, I think, a little bit less than what the Keith Thurman fight did. You gotta understand something about the Pacquiao Ugas fight. Everybody was anticipating Manny Pacquiao fighting Errol Spence Jr. Okay, and when that fell apart, a lot of the fanfare left the fight. A lot of people were upset. A lot of people felt like they wasted their money and their time. And, the fight was sellable because it was two marquee names. It was Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. comes with a built-in fan base, nowhere near as big or as popular as a Manny Pacquiao, but he comes with a built-in fan base. He comes from Texas, a big state. So the fight would have done decent numbers. It would have probably did, closer to 500,000, maybe between 500,000 and 1,000,000 if he actually would have fought Errol Spence Jr. Now here's the problem that nobody seems to be bringing up, is this fight happened so quickly, and nobody knows who Yordenis Ugas is. It's crazy because with Yordenis Ugas got elevated to super champion, nobody knew who he was. Nobody cared about him. I made videos about Ugas about a year ago, trying to let people know that this fight could possibly be made very easily. And it would only take for Crawford or Spence to, ultimately not accept the Pacquiao fight for that Ugas fight to be made. Nobody was watching those videos. Like usual, I'll say some stuff and it'll be current and it'll be true to the times, but the YouTube just don't show it to nobody, so, or people just don't click on it. But I made those videos and was just letting people know that Ugas is a formidable opponent. He's a dangerous fight for a lot of people because nobody knows who he is, and that's the problem of why that fight didn't sell. Now, you got to remember another thing. Boxing is nowhere near as popular as it used to be. 10 years ago, it was a very popular sport. And it sold a lot of pay-per-views. Another thing that I mentioned is the Gate did very well for this fight. The Gate was, I think they packed the stadium. I think it was a sold-out event. But it's 2021. You don't need pay-per-view anymore to watch a pay-per-view fight. So people keep saying that, he didn't do well because they only sold 250,000 pay-per-view buys. That's actually awesome when you can just stream a pay-per-view event now. You don't actually have to pay for it anymore. So for him to actually get 250,000 buys is actually pretty good for 2021. Now, the other thing is, I'm trying to compare what Pacquiao did to what Jake Paul did. And, sometimes it's hard for me to get on here and fully tell the truth because I know I'm going to get censored. But who cares at this point? I'm already being censored. Because YouTube just don't show it to nobody. Except for the few people that always watch my videos. So, the Jake Paul situation. Here's what they used to do back in the day in music. When a new artist would come out, you're trying to break that artist. There was two ways to break an artist. One of them was to sell a lot of records, or have a hot single that puts you on the map that sells a lot of records, or you could have a DJ break you. And then there was videos too back then. You could be broken on MTV or BET. But the two major ways were a DJ breaks your record, or you have just a smash album, and it comes with a visual that gets played on MTV or BET. Now, what they used to really do behind the scenes, and here's the thing about Jake Paul, and I feel like this is probably what they're doing, because I don't think Jake Paul is as popular as what the numbers are telling. Is the record labels, when they put an album out and it wasn't selling, the record label would go purchase like 500,000 of those records themselves and give them away at promo events. So what they get to do is they actually get to count those as album sales, plus they get to write that off because they gave the product away. So, in so many words, what I'm saying is I'm pretty sure, because Jake Paul's audience, when he was just on YouTube, was a very, very young audience, and I doubt a lot of those fans carried over into his boxing career. I don't really follow Jake Paul, so I don't know exactly, but I doubt that many of those fans carried over into his boxing career that actually are purchasing pay-per-views. But here's the thing, Jake Paul is already extremely rich, and he can just go purchase a bunch of his pay-per-views. He don't have to actually have people buy it. He can go purchase 500,000 of them and have them featured, at certain restaurants or certain establishments that he owns, and those get counted as pay-per-view buys. It's what people do all the time when something's not selling. Obviously, PBC, there was no need for them to do that on a Pacquiao Ugas card, because they already know nobody knows who Ugas is. It's not really going to sell as well as Pacquiao Spence would have. They already knew that, so they don't even feel like they invested a lot of time or money into promoting that fight. Which is why I said it was sloppily done. It shouldn't even been done in that way. If Errol Spence was going to cancel that fight, and they were just going to bring you guys in as a substitute, they should have put the fight off for 2 to 3 weeks to build up a fanfare for the fight, to sell you guys a little bit more. But unfortunately, we got what we got. This is why I feel like it was all set up in the beginning. I put a video out about a week before the fight saying why I felt like it was a setup. You can go back and watch it if you want. I might put it at the end card. I might put it in the card or at the end screen or something. But, they knew that you guys wasn't sellable. Nobody feels like you guys is a sellable opponent. So I'm not surprised that the pay-per-view didn't sell very well. I was actually surprised that the gate did as well as it did, and that they packed that stadium out. But Pacquiao comes in with a Pacquiao fan base. His fan base is very, very large. And I'm pretty sure most of those people in that arena were Filipino, of Filipino descent, or Filipino Americans, people that came over from the Philippines, American Pacquiao fans, and probably the majority of those buys were probably Manny Pacquiao fans. I'm pretty sure they were not Yordenis Ugas fans. I'm pretty sure some of you guys fans bought the fight, but the majority of what sold that fight was Manny Pacquiao's name, which makes it even more unfortunate that I feel like they did him the way that they did him, kind of like trying to force him to bow out or whatever of the sport, trying to embarrass him a little bit, and just making the fight not very fair for Pacquiao. But everybody has their own feelings about how the fight went. Everybody has their own feelings about pay-per-view numbers and how things actually work. I'm 100% sure that Jake Paul is not getting a legitimate 1 million views on 1 million sales on pay-per-view. Nobody's really doing these numbers except for UFC. UFC But I think UFC probably does that, allegedly, or they might be doing that behind the scenes as well. I don't think UFC is that the reason that, to me, the UFC gets so many pay-per-view buys is because those events can be watched at restaurants. You can go to restaurants and watch, and a lot of people like UFC, so a lot of restaurants are going to order those events when they're shown because they know people are going to show up to eat and watch those events. Unlike boxing, was becoming, it's so much more about the money, and we're not getting the fights that we want. In UFC, you get a lot of times you're quicker to see the fight that you want, even though it might end the guy's career really quickly. You get the fights that you want. In boxing, you don't get the fights you want, and it ends up in a situation where fans are turned off by the events, and they don't want to purchase the events. They don't want to go support the events, like going to a restaurant and paying for some food, and forcing the restaurant to have to buy that event on pay-per-view. It's just not happening like that for boxing anymore. They gotta do something to sell these events. The only boxer who sells events really is Canelo, and that it has nothing to do with Canelo's skill set per se. Canelo has a nice fan base, but Canelo sells events because the Mexicans and the Mexican Americans purchase those events. That's the only reason. It's not because Canelo is just the most popular fighter out there. It's because Canelo's fan base spends money. Now, that might be true about Jake Paul too. Like I said, I don't know how many of those fans actually carry over from YouTube to actually purchasing pay-per-views. I would be more inclined to say he might be purchasing some of those views himself. But, it is what it is. No hate on Jake Paul. Don't know the guy. Never followed him. Never watched any of his fights. Not interested in his career in any type of way. But shouts out to you. I don't think Pacquiao's pay-per-view numbers versus you guys really matter. Even though people are going to use that as another battering ram to beat Pacquiao over the head with, and his fan base over the head with, to say he needs to get out of the sport. You're not selling pay-per-views. You're getting beat by unknown fighters. It's time for you to go. It's all a narrative to get Pacquiao out of the way. Let me know what y'all think about that, man. Hit that like button for me. Please subscribe. Share all that other good stuff. If you want to be featured on Cardinal Reds, Ali Land Boxing Talk, Red Room Sports, we can talk about anything, chop it up, go live or whatever, man. Just hit me up, man. Comment section, community section, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you find me at, man. It's your boy Cardinal Red, and we are out of here. What we listen to, man? Let's see what's playing real fast before we get out of here, man. Alright, man, we out of here. Get out of here. Why don't they go off? Why won't it go off?